Okay, for the final portion of our cartoon portrait project, what we're going to do is I'm going to show you guys how to create backgrounds, and by doing so, I'm going to introduce the concept of layers to you. This is a very important concept, so pay attention closely on this video. We're going to introduce this concept of layers, as I was saying a moment ago. So what you want to do is, hopefully at this point you have a character that looks similar to mine. You know, you've got your figure, your foreground, and what we're going to create is a background behind this figure. So one way to do that would be to just like create shapes and do, hang on a second, would be to just create a shape and then just go, you know, give it a color, whatever, go object, arrange, send to back, and just do that over and over and over. But that's not a very useful way to do what we're trying to do. We want to create an entire piece in the background and have our character sit in front of it. So that's why we're going to come to that's how we're going to come to the concept of layers. Okay, so layers, if you look on the right side of your screen, you'll see your layers panel looks like these two little white diamonds. You see these little white diamonds stacked on top of each other? That's supposed to indicate like two pieces of paper stacked on top of each other. And what we're going to do is a weird concept, so bear with me here. I'm going to try my best to explain it. Essentially, what a layer is, it's going to be a piece of artwork that's all on one plane, right? Or layer. And then you can make as many layers as you want, going back into space or going in front, and they all just sort of stack on top of each other to create a total piece of art. So in this case, if you look at your layers panel, there's this little eyeball that's on the far left of layer one here. You'll see layer one has a little icon that looks like your piece of art. It'll say layer one, it'll be highlighted, and there's this little eyeball icon. It says toggle visibility. If you click on that, it'll make that layer go away. See that? You can click on it and make it go away. So what we're going to do is we're going to create another layer behind our character to make some art. Okay, this is how you make layers. So what you do is you come down to in this panel, the bottom right, there's this little plus sign inside of a square. It says create new layer. When you do that, it's going to say layer 2. So now we have a separate layer that we can work on. So layer 1 is down here, that has my character on it. Layer 2 exists on its own plane. Okay. So what we can do here is, let's make that same design I was going to make. If I just make a bunch of random shapes. Okay. Notice how they're all happening above or on top of my character. See that? Like that. Now you can see in layer 2 over here, you'll see that it gives you a little representation of what's on that particular layer. In this case, it's just red rectangles. Layer 1, you can see that there's the character face. So here, let me show you. If I toggle the visibility of those particular layers, you can kind of start to see the concept. So that layer 2 that I just created, if I toggle the visibility of it, you can see everything is existing on this sort of invisible plane that's above the other work. Likewise, everything on layer 1 is existing on its own sort of invisible plane, right? So what we have here is we have layer 2 has all our rectangles or whatever. But I want layer 2 to become our background. So right now, layer 2 is in front of layer 1. The way you can think about this, it's very easy, is this. Whatever's on top in your layers panel is going to be in the front of your work. So if what we can do, it's very easy to organize these layers. It's very similar to like moving icons around on or apps around on your smartphone. All you have to do is this. You just, on layer 2, you can see right where this space where my mouse is. If I just click and drag, I can pull it down below the previous layer. So I can move those layers around by just clicking and dragging and organizing them in that manner. So now you can see layer 2's back here, layer 1's up here, and now we've got a nice little separation. Okay. So here's a little trick. What I'm going to have you do is, if you want to, well, not if you want to, but what we're going to create in our background is we're going to make some sort of cool artwork back here. Okay. I've only got these red rectangles. I'd like for you to try to make something really creative and interesting. And the way you can do that and really focus on what you're doing is this. If you go up to layer 1, notice how I've clicked this, I've highlighted it. Next to this little eyeball toggling thing here, there's an empty space. And if you click that, a little padlock will come up. So what that does is it locks that layer. So see how my pencil has a little line through it? I'm not allowed to do any artwork on this layer because I've locked it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lock it, and now I'm going to make it invisible. So I'm going to take this away. So I can see that little toggle. I'm going to make it go away. And what I have here is an empty sheet here, or basically a blank canvas to create artwork. Notice how it still has my little pencil with a line through it. That means I can't do any artwork. Well, that's because I have layer 1 selected over here. So pay attention to what layer you have selected. can know because of the highlighted aspect of it. So if I click down here on layer 2, now I can come back in and start creating again. So what I'm going to have you guys do is just make some sort of cool design. All right, I'm just going to go kind of quickly. I'm going to make something like kind of abstract. You can make something more in relation to your character. If maybe you made your character look like an astronaut or something, you can make it look like they're in space. Or if you put them in your football uniform from school, then you could, make it look like a field. Or I've had people do like forest scenes or whatever. Or you can just do random abstract designs like I'm doing right now. Just do something simple so I can kind of show you how to finalize all this. All right, so I'm just making all this. A lot of this is going to go behind my figure, but in my case, I just want to make something that looks unique and interesting. It's not that cool, but I'm just going kind of quick. So what I'm doing here is I'm just creating some texture for the background, okay? So now you can pop your character back in and see how it's looking. It looks pretty good. Not terrible. Not great though, but that's okay. What I want you guys to do is really think about how to make this portion of your project unique as well. How do we make it stand out and look cool? Get that positioned on there properly. There we go, that'll work. And then another final thing that you can do is if you make a giant rectangle over the background like so, you can go Object, Arrange, Send to Back. All of that arrangement stuff, the sending to the back, the bringing to the front, that only exists within a layer. So if you send it to the back, it's sending it to the back, in that case, of layer 2. So now it's behind everything. I can come in here and play around with some colors and choices, and that looks pretty bad. Just find a, I don't know. There we go, that looks fine for now. And so what I've done here is I've just created my own little separate piece of artwork on its own layer behind the cartoon character. So when I put the cartoon character back in, voila, I've got myself a finalized, unique sort of image here for a beginner's shape project in Graphic Design 1. So I would encourage you to create any sort of design you want, make it as detailed as possible. The more detail you put into the piece, the better your grade will be, of course. But this is like the end of our first project. So I think if you stuck along with me throughout all that, you probably made something that looks pretty similar to what I'm looking at here. And there it is. Again, any sort of detail, any sort of a technique that you want to use, feel free to do it. But I'd like for the general idea to be similar to mine, like size-wise, and I do want to make sure that I see that you separated your background into its own layer, like I did right here. So this concludes our first project in Graphic Design 1. So hopefully you enjoyed that, and it's only going to get better from here. So thanks, guys. Bye-bye.